said to get a sense, in a very physical sense of what that is, to have an analogy for it, but in reality all the talking that you're doing is not going to make any difference. So what is the point of, and I know you'll probably say, well, you're just here and this is it, but there's something that draws, there must be something that comes back to this message as opposed to not coming to the message. And that then is the question, perhaps, of the person trying to know what is that, to try to get a sense, perhaps, by, if you could answer that, then maybe there would be another deeper understanding or whatever. Or is it just what happens and the waves pull you in there again?
What was that last phrase? The what pull?
The waves.
The wave pulls you in.
Again.
Yeah, it's that last thing. The wave keeps pulling you in. It's an energetic resonance. What's that about? I have absolutely no idea. Why does that happen for this person and not for that person? I have absolutely no idea. That is unanswerable, like all why questions. All we can do with a question such as why or what is this about, which is simple, all we can do is make up another story. And we can make up very, very convincing stories. And those stories might, for example, in this case, be about your wonderful karma, which has drawn you to this incredibly spiritual place. Or your dreadful karma, which has drawn you to this place of complete untruth. Or many other stories we could make up. So let's ignore the stories and let's just, we don't have to get into non-duality for this. All we have to do is be rigorously honest with ourselves and notice that all the answers that we make to a question like that, like why am I here? Why have I been chosen to be here? And what is this? All of the answers we give to that are just stories, and I do mean just stories. So let's acknowledge that. There's no point not acknowledging that. But apart from that, I would say that most people, why they're at a talk like this, well, some people wander into the wrong place by accident. They meant to go to the course on angel channeling, but they went through the wrong door. And some people come out of curiosity and only once, and then they go away again. But for a lot of people, particularly if they're at a talk like this more than once or over and over again, I don't think we can say anything more clearly than there is an energetic resonance. There's a magnetism. Which isn't really to say anything more about this than about anything else. If there was an energetic resonance there with going to the, I'm not quite sure what you would call them in Germany, going to the pool hall and having a game of pool, then that's what would be happening. So why is there an energetic resonance there to be in this rather than the pool hall? I have no idea. No one has any idea. All we can do about that is spin yet another story about it. Doesn't matter, we can simply notice that it's happening. So there's a magnetism. We are, if you like, we see ourselves as choosing to do things. We don't choose to do things. There is no central authority up here that makes a decision to do something. But it doesn't matter, it makes no difference, because in actuality there is a magnetism, there is a pull towards something. That pull might be towards sex and drugs and rock and roll. It might be towards non-duality talks. If you're really lucky, it might be to both. It might be, it could be to the pub, it could be to the church, it could be to the non-duality talk. There's a magnetic pull. And if that energy is there, then going to the non-duality talk or going to the pub might happen. It doesn't guarantee it will happen, because something else might happen instead. The car might break down on the way. But if that energy is there, then it's quite likely that it will happen. And then here we are at yet another non-duality talk, or in yet another bar, downing yet another whiskey. So there's a resonance. There can be a resonance with vodka. There can be a resonance with non-duality, and, God be praised, there can be a resonance with both. You might be sitting here listening to non-duality with a flask of vodka in your hand. Good luck to you. Nobody knows what's really in this glass. So the phrase that I absolutely love, and I use it over and over again, and I wish that I had thought of it, but I didn't because somebody got there first, is, our head's in the tiger's mouth. We come here and our head's in the tiger's mouth. I hope that phrase gets over our utter helplessness. So who knows why, for some of us, the tiger seizes our head. But if the tiger does seize our head, then we're helpless. And we wait, and either the tiger bites our head or it doesn't.
Well, if the available seats had been better and the concert a little cheaper that we wanted to go to, then we wouldn't be here tonight. Probably. This is a lot cheaper and,
Of course. And let's make no mistake whatsoever, it absolutely doesn't matter.
Absolutely not.
And it's irrelevant that it doesn't matter, because nothing could be different to what it is. I mean, think about the staggering obviousness of what I just said. I mean, I haven't made any deep philosophical statement. I have just said the most obvious thing in the world. Nothing could be any different to what it is. There is no possibility that there could be even one less molecule in this glass of water than there is. That's not a very deep thing to say. The number of molecules in this glass of water is exactly the same as the number of molecules that there are in this glass of water.
Constantly changing, but it's the same.
I am plunging into the banal here. So it can sound kind of philosophically challenging if we don't really hear that statement. Nothing can be different in any way to what it actually is. Actually, it's the most obvious thing in the world to say. So here we are. And if this wasn't happening, something else would be happening. And it's gloriously meaningless. It's not meaningless, it's gloriously meaningless. So now, hopefully, we've ascended out of the banal. Of course, it's meaningless, but that's its glory. I mean, once all the stories have been seen through, it's seen that everything is completely meaningless, but that's its glory. This isn't the meaninglessness of existential despair. That's a different kind. That's the meaninglessness which is experienced by the person who feels separate and therefore craves meaning, and falls off the cliff of existential angst when they realise there is no meaning. Because that's what tends to happen with existentialism. You're jogging along through life quite happily with your meaning, whatever it might be, saving souls for Christ or making the planet a better place, or whatever it might be. And suddenly you hit the wall of existential angst, you realise it's all complete baloney, and you fall off the cliff. That's a common experience with existentialism. That is not the meaninglessness. Well, it is the same meaninglessness. I was going to say, it's not the meaninglessness we're talking about. Oh no, we're not talking about existential meaninglessness here. We're talking about a much better kind of meaninglessness. No, that would to be, as Hillary Clinton once said, that would be to misspeak. It is the same kind of meaninglessness. This is the same kind of meaninglessness as is seen in existential despair. What's the difference? The difference is that here, there's nobody bloody well seeing it. That's the difference. That's why existential meaninglessness tends to lead to despair, because there's a person there seeing it, and because the person is seeing it, they don't tend to see it as glorious. When there's nobody seeing that this is meaninglessness, that this is meaningless, then it's seen as glorious. That's its beauty. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm always trying new metaphors, and some of them really don't work. But let's try this. Imagine that you were given the most beautiful bunch of flowers. No, let's put it the other way around. Let's imagine that you give the most beautiful bunch of flowers to the person you most love in life, and they receive it with deep gratitude, and then they start taking each flower one by one and saying, now what does this flower mean?
I love you.
What is this
I love
one
you now.
saying about life? And what does this one say about God? And what does this one say about human relationships? You probably feel a little bit deflated. Is this working? You don't want to give the person you most dearly love in life a bunch of flowers and have them do that. Probably. But let me put it this way. If you're sitting there thinking, I'd love that to happen, you're probably in the minority. The gloriousness of a bunch of flowers is it's meaningless. Its beauty lies partly in that it has no meaning. It doesn't need to have a meaning. We could say beauty is meaning enough, but that's a pretty pompous thing to say, so maybe we'll avoid that. Do you know that film Forrest Gump? Incredibly
Yes.
wet American film.
Yep.
So I have to say, I feel very grateful for that. I've never seen it in its entirety, but I've seen clips from it. And there's the famous clip, isn't there? Life is a box of chocolates. So what I'm working towards is saying life is a bunch of flowers. No, you get the point. What I'm saying is that, this is, you are, I am, you are, we are as meaningless as a flower, and that's what's glorious. I mean, if you sense a little bit of relief from what you were talking about earlier, think how much relief might be sensed, just might be sensed, if you're released from the pressure of feeling that your life should be meaningful, your life should have a purpose. Mm-hmm. What a pressure that is. Not only have you got to find out what your life's purpose is, and by the way, there's plenty of people who will sell you a very expensive course so you can find out what your life's purpose is. But having found out what your life's purpose is, which will probably cost you about €5,000, you're then going to have to bloody well fulfill it. Imagine how tiring that is. Every morning, waking up, have I got closer to fulfilling my life's purpose? Why do you think the lilies of the valleys and the roses in the flower beds don't look stressed and tired? It's because they don't wake up in the morning thinking, what can I do to fulfill my life's purpose today? They just wake up and be a lily of the valley or a rose. Well, that's what I'm suggesting to us. Our life is as gloriously meaningless as a rose or a lily of the valley.
Besides which, they have insects going in all the time and caressing their sex organs.
Well, I think I'll leave that to you to make a further comment on if you want to. I can't say